Did you know that the first John Wick movie in 2014, it didn't even have a distributor until like 2 months before its release? Thankfully, it got picked up at the last minute. It premiered at Fantastic Fest. Shout out Alamo Drafthouse. But there is an alternate timeline where that movie went straight to DVD. Thank you to people on Twitter for enlightening me to that, and thank you to all our brave soldiers who saw it that year and said, everyone needs to see this. This is something special, because otherwise I might not be sitting here telling you that John Wick Chapter 4 at 2 hours and 49 minutes is easily one of the most well-paced and electrifying displays of action filmmaking I have ever seen, and maybe the best that they've done yet in the franchise. It's at a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, okay? I'm not crazy. And you'd think that would be expected, right? Shouldn't franchises get better as they go along? More experience, increased budget? But oh no, that almost never happens. And that's why we're lucky to have what I think is pound for pound the best action franchise ever. Not only because each film has been genre defining, but it values the technical aspect as much as the story. It's fascinating to see how this franchise has evolved over these 3 films, because they aren't episodes like you usually get. It's a continuation of this same thread of John not quite getting it. He keeps digging himself deeper into this hole. When or will he ever be able to dig himself out? Or do we just keep descending into the 9 circles of assassin hell? I will say this is the most maximalist and fantastical the franchise has ever been. Just stuffed to the brim. It has the longest runtime, the colors feel brighter, the set pieces more extravagant, the humor more prevalent, the events less plausible. And that's not them losing sight of anything. I think this is what the franchise was always meant to be. If you're the kind of person who prefers the first one for the more grounded, simple revenge story, she's gone, dead and buried. But arguably it was never that simple. From the get-go, John Wick has been a modern mythological figure. The director, Chad Stahelski, who, if you didn't know, his whole background is in stunt work and action. He was Keanu Reeves' stunt double for The Matrix. It's so cool. This whole franchise is so cool, but he's a director who wears his inspirations on his sleeve. It's probably the thing I love most about these movies after the action components. I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards. And he hasn't written any of the films, so props to David Kolstad, who is the lead writer on the first 3, and this one was written by Michael Finch and Shay Hatton. But I hear Stahelski is responsible for a lot of the allegorical aspects, not only biblical, but mythological, and also the mythology of the internal assassin world in and of itself. The supporting characters, the coins, the Continental, it's all very intentional. And John Wick has been Hercules, he's been Sisyphus, Orpheus, Dante, you name it. And I love that Stahelski isn't shy to be upfront about the elevated reality of it all, but also his inspirations from wuxia films to video games, anime, westerns. There's a really big western component in this one. Neon noir, he said that he wants to make his own David Lean movie. I mean, there's a clear-cut Lawrence of Arabia reference in the first like 10 minutes of 4. This franchise is a proud mural of all that came before it, and we'll get into how the story plays out for this one, but of course, the star of the show is the action. Oh guys, I could not even believe my eyes. I don't think there have been many times where I've had this expression in a theater of just jaw on the ground, half in disbelief, half in childlike glee, and just trying not to cheer every 2 seconds. It's the trademark hand-to-hand, balletic, kinetic action, but dialed up to a million, and all the time, they just keep topping themselves. My 2 favorite action scenes before this both came from 3, in the knife throwing sequence and the dog sequence with Halle Berry. I don't think they beat the dog sequence in this one, but they get right to that level and then do it like 7 times. There's this unapologetic self-indulgence that I love. They're going all out and they're good at it and they know it, and there's so much of it. The classic ultra violence, and paired with the production design, the cinematography. There's so much care and attention to detail that no wonder it took them 4 years to make this one. I'm surprised it was that quick. I mean, the meticulous planning that this takes alone. Choreographing, training, location scouting, props. The large majority of this is shot on location. There's a scene that takes place at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, at that roundabout. It's so bonkers, and they actually filmed it there and had like 100 stunt drivers. They filmed at the Louvre, and I almost feel silly making a big deal out of the fact that like when you see the Eiffel Tower, it's actually the Eiffel Tower. But it's become such a rarity that what you're seeing in big blockbusters like this is actually real. It's priceless to have that as a viewer, and I'm so glad they haven't lost that care for sensory experience as the franchise has grown. And guys, oh my god, it's been a week since I saw this movie and I'm still reeling from this, but they do an overhead tracking shot. This moment was full circle for me because while I was watching the other 3 films, I was always like, oh my god, they should do an overhead tracking shot. That would be so cool. They did, and it's easily top 5 coolest moments in the movie. I manifested this, you're welcome. It's just unbelievable, even down to the dog stunts. They have like 5 different dogs playing one dog. I kind of love the moments where you can tell it's staged in a way that they're obviously aware of, like kind of winking at you, like the sequence where John keeps getting thrown into the glass cases in, I think, the end of 3. It also gets to a point at the end of this one with a scene with a staircase, and you'll know it, where it's very knowingly treading into self-parody, and it's so good. It's so silly. Kind of a different brand of humor that was refreshing. But they're innovative with the context and the choreography so that the action doesn't all blur together. The conversation about having a stunt category at the Oscars has already been blowing up, and it's gonna be insane after the wide release. I think it is literally blasphemous that they have not done this yet. I mean, it's an art, and this franchise has revolutionized the language of action in American cinema. Maybe this could be the year, who knows? I also think this is the most fully realized and charming that the side characters have been. As a whole, it's hard to beat like Halle Berry as Sophia, but we've got Bill Skarsgård as the creepy, sadistic Marquis, Donnie Yen as the blind, quippy ex-friend who is now an enemy because he's trying to save his own family. All I can say is that he is a freaking badass in this. You kind of just have to see it for yourself. Rena as the daughter and heir to Hiroyuki Sanada's operation. Scott Adkins absolutely steals the show with his one sequence that he's in. It's like very Bond villain. It's a great scene. Maybe the best club scene in the franchise. I think it's in the trailer. There's like rain pouring down. It's awesome. All 4 of the guys in that scene where it's perfect. Ian McShane and Lawrence Fishburne return, but I think the standout for me overall was Shamir Anderson. He plays a tracker who has a really interesting kind of parasitic relationship with John Wick that transforms over the runtime. He's super charming. He has these uber expressive eyes. I thought he was phenomenal. As someone who is mostly anti-spinoff, I would sell my soul for a spinoff about him and his dog. And finally, one of my favorite side characters, Sharon, and mentioning him, I'd like to say how tragic it is that Lance Reddick passed away recently on March 17th. A tremendous loss. He was such a terrific character actor and such a funny and gracious presence in this franchise. It was nice hearing some stories about him and Keanu on set.
Room 818. And as always, it is a pleasure having you with us again, Mr. Wick.
And Keanu Reeves, what is there to say? Not only is he perfectly suited to this role, but in these films, he's surrounded by martial arts legends that are elevating what he's been doing since the beginning, just giving everything to the stunts and to the heart of the film. Now, the ending is gonna cause some commotion. I'm not sure what to make of it. I have thoughts about it, but I'm curious to see what people think once it comes out. I don't think it's bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I don't really have issues that I care to report about this movie, but there will obviously be people who don't think it's a perfect film. Again, I thought it was excellently paced, but there will be people who think that it's just unnecessarily long. People might think certain characters like the Bowery King could have had more screen time. And I'll also say that I don't think this is the most thematically profound film in the franchise. I would probably give that to 3. There are also sequences like the Hall of Mirrors in 2 that are incredible. And that's not to say that this one isn't powerful and continuing those themes well, but I do think this one plays the role of just being maximalist and flamboyant and just grander and almost excessive in how much of everything it's bringing to the table. And that's what I like about it. It's just invigorating and so well done. So I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4, and there's never been a more apt time to put the Keanu meme to use. Yeah, I'm thinking 5 stars. That's right, I'm gonna be on the right side of history. It just doesn't get much better than this, and everyone has their own ranking of these films. I've seen every order, and I think that's just a testament to how great they all are. Personally, mine goes backwards in order. I just think each film has gotten better in its own way, though I probably like 3 just as much as this one. There's a lot going on in 3 that is amazing. So let me know your ranking of the John Wick films. Go see John Wick 4 this weekend. Get your face melted. See it in IMAX. See it in Dolby. I don't care. Just don't see it in digital if you're going to the theater. I'll be watching it with you because I'm definitely going to see it again this weekend. But don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.